Hey guys, nice to see you.
Lovely to see you again, Menla. So I got a few questions for you about the subject of love. So, because we're going to be talking about this together in very soon. And one question that comes up a lot these days is love powerful enough to actually in the real world deal with conflicts, whether we're talking about big conflicts or small conflicts? Is love something that can actually solve conflicts, or do we actually need anger for that? Then the sense of outrage and injustice. Can love really make a difference?
Well, I think it's a great question, and I'm really happy to be coming to Denver and getting to teach on this topic and to teach with you. So it's such a good question. It's very relevant, and I personally think that anger is totally irrelevant and unnecessary. I really do. Not that we don't experience it. I'm not. Of course, we're humans. We experience it, but from the point of view of solving problems, I think that anger itself is destructive. And Buddha says this, isn't it? That the nature of anger is to harm. And I think in our own experience, when we personally have been very angry, we are in a state of pain. And then we generally inflict that on other people. And, you know, I'm not saying that we haven't been harmed. We are still having been harmed individually from other people, and that it isn't natural to become angry, but it's actually a painful state of mind, and it doesn't fundamentally solve our problems. And if you give me a minute, I have a story about this that I love to tell. When I was living in Washington, D.C., which is full of activists, people trying to change the world, this woman was coming to a series of classes on overcoming anger. And after class one time, she said to me, everything you're saying is exactly as I've experienced it. She said, I've tried to use anger in my work to solve problems in the world. And she said, what I found over the years is that I'm emotionally unstable and getting angry all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And compassion fatigue as well.
Yeah. So
Not just saying it.
on this,
Yeah.
so I was just going to say on the surface, it seems like, yeah, let's harness that energy of anger and put it in some direction.
Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Justified.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% agree. So sometimes you sort of think that anger is the powerful emotion, that love, compassion, they're less powerful. One thing I like to think of is that the word compassion has got the word passion in it, and how it's a very passionate, solution-oriented, powerful, big, flexible mind.
Yeah.
Also, the sense that we feel, okay, I can only solve this conflict in my relationship if I love the person. They're going to feel they've got away with it, for example. Or if I love this person, they're going to feel they can walk all over me.
Yeah.
I can't give in to them because then they've won and they shouldn't win. And you sort of think, I need that element of anger and some confrontation. And we have this sense. I'm not actually necessarily answering that. I'm just saying that's questions that come up. But we have the sense that somehow anger is a powerful emotion, and that we need it. But then if you ask yourself a question like, if you have a kid, do you want to bring your kid up with the powerful emotion of anger or with the powerful emotion of love? Do you want your parents to live in love or in anger? Do you want yourself to be living in that powerful emotion? Is anger really a more powerful emotion than love? If you think about what's the most appealing state of mind to possess, and that you'd like your loved ones to possess and the people you care about to possess, you generally don't want people to feel angry all the time. And to me, that speaks volumes about what we do really consider to be valuable when it comes right down to it.
But definitely, no one wants to live in a perpetual state of conflict, do they? I mean, in a close relationship, it could be a partner, it could be child and parent. I'm kind of a caregiver for my mother right now, and there's definitely times that I've been frustrated, but I've had to look at my own mind and say, is that how I want to handle this? Is that what I want to create in a relationship? And my answer is always no. I don't want to live feeling in a state of conflict. And I think you bring up this really interesting point about winning, and is winning part of love?
Yeah, that expression that, there's a fine line between love and anger, or it's not true. There isn't a fine line because love is such a big, expansive, flexible mind. It's able to accept the other person's shortcomings without feeling as somehow defensive or somehow insecure around it. It's I suppose one thing that we're going to be looking at is how love is something that we do develop. It's not some squishy emotion that you either have or don't have. It's a very active training that we need to get the love that we're talking about here, which is that strong, stable, open, big, flexible mind that is able to deal with other people's, the annoyances that other people bring into our lives without feeling annoyed, without, a mind that's big enough to accept everything that's going on in our life without getting angry. I mean, you were saying earlier, when we chatted about this briefly earlier, and you were saying, when we talk about conflict, we sort of think, how will love help in big situations like Gaza or whatever? And it's $1 million question, and it definitely would help. But as you said yourself, the first thing we really need to figure out, isn't it, which is what we need to be talking about, is how do we develop that love in our relationships with everybody, not just our significant other, but if we have one, but with everybody. Because if we do that, then we start to see how relevant it is.
Well, I think you're right. And it's something you said I found really interesting is that love is a practice, it's a practice. And we're very well practiced at attachment. That comes really easily, doesn't it?
What would you say then is, someone asked you 2 sentences, what's the difference between love and attachment? Because,
I would say attachment is something we want for ourselves, in a sense, and love is something that we want to extend towards other people.
Lovely. So attachment is, what can you do for me?
Exactly.
Love is more like, what can I do for you?
Exactly, yeah.
And our relationships, our relationships are like a mixture. I mean, on Valentine's Day, for example, it's a classic love stroke attachment day, isn't it? And being able to distinguish those two, I think, is one of Buddha's most helpful teachings. It can save us, years of heartache.
Because with both of them, you feel close, don't you? I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can feel close to somebody out of attachment. You can feel close to them out of love. So there's some aspect of the feeling of closeness that feels so similar or the same, but
Intimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people want intimacy.
Yeah.
And you can feel, closeness, intimacy, and you can get that with both in a sense, except as the attachment is the proverbial, honey on a razor's edge. There's so much conditionality to it and expectation within it. And as you were saying, it's about me. What about me? That it can easily, that can slip over into anger, annoyance, hatred, disappointment.
Definitely.
Love, love cannot. Love is the opposite of hatred or anger.